12:05 p.m. We're going to forego the Pledge of Allegiance to tonight's council meeting. Roll call.
Ambrose?
Here.
Button?
Here.
Borba?
Here.
We have a quorum. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.3, residents wishing to address the Audit and Finance Committee regarding only items on the agenda may do so when the item is read for consideration. You may state your name and address for the record, however, it is not required. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. Under the provisions of the California Government Code, the Audit and Finance Committee may not discuss or take action on any item that is not in the agenda.
I actually don't see a spot to open public comment. All right, well, moving forward, minutes. June 24, 2024 regular meeting. Is there a recommendation to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Borba, second by Button. Ambrose?
Yes.
Borba?
Yes.
Button?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Funding and budget matters. Treasurer's report unaudited for the month ending June 30, 2024. Are there any questions from the committees regarding this topic? Seeing none, we can entertain a motion.
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Button, second by Ambrose. Ambrose?
Yes.
Button?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Reports and presentation from staff. Go ahead and pass that on over to you.
All right. You can hear me okay?
Yep.
It's working? All right. Okay, so in your agenda packet, you had the quarterly report on sales tax and business activity, the public information that it can be shared. This is for calendar year 2024 for the first quarter data that we received last month from our sales tax consultants. And the first quarter in review, it wasn't rosy, it was more of a gloom, but the one good thing is Atwater's not alone in that, whether good or bad. So Atwater experienced declines in taxable cash receipts by the reporting period of 2024 calendar year Q1. The Merced County region as a whole experienced declines. But as you can see from the report, Atwaters were a little bit larger than the region. And sometimes that can just be a timing, perhaps a late pay from a taxpayer. So that's why we always kind of look at the next quarter and see if maybe it's up. However, the Central Valley region as a whole experienced a modest gain of 2.3% from this quarter over the same quarter from the previous year. So that's good, some good positive news. So with this data, though, we're not alarmed because it seems to be what has been trending over the last year. As we've talked about, we're kind of settling down from COVID frenzied spending. So we're not alarmed by anything in this data. We're not reevaluating our budget estimates. Everything that we're showing is trending in line with what we did a conservative revenue estimate for our budget this fiscal year, and it's still showing that we're coming in close to estimate. So we'll look at the next quarter data that should be available to us September, October. We'll look at that for our mid-year estimate to see if there's anything that needs to be adjusted, and we'll let you know at an Audit and Finance Committee meeting closer to that time, towards the end of fall. And same with our 1% add-on tax for Measure B. That sales tax revenue estimate is coming in pretty consistent with what we estimated. So unless there's any questions, that is all I have to report on that.
Are there any questions from the committee members?
No.
I have a quick, what hopefully could be a quick one. On that first page for business activity, is that a concern for the city that business to business is down nearly 29%?
A lot of times that might just be one or two payers that perhaps was catching up in the comparison quarter, so maybe it was overstated, not overstated, but an anomaly in the previous comparison quarter. So at this time, we didn't have any concerns when we met with our consultant, but it's something that we will definitely look at quarter to quarter. If you continue to see that consecutive quarters, that's when we want to drill into it further and see what's going on. But sometimes you will see that anomaly from one quarter to the next.
I do have a question now. If say that was a trend, how would we go about trying to fix that?
So we would try to get as much data as we can from our sales tax consultants. They are privy to whether or not perhaps there's a taxpayer that's having some difficulty in making their payments. And then that could be future payments that would come in. So things like that they can get some data from CDTFA, or is it a matter of some businesses have left? And so usually those are some things that we'll have on the radar ahead of time. By the time this data is a little bit of a lag, but we'll know through the economic development department if that's a concern.
Give me one moment here. So that was item 3. Item 4, finance director updates.
Yeah, and I have just a couple. I'll keep them brief. I know in essence of time we have meetings lined up, and there's a couple of these items that you'll hear about again at council meeting tonight. So I'm going to keep them very brief. I was going to originally go into some of the GASB updates. So occasionally you're aware of accounting pronouncements that come around every year or 2 years that there are going to be a few, and I think our auditor will touch on a couple of them, so I'm not going to go into depth, but there are going to be a few coming about that add some complexities to the way we do our financial reporting. It's just, some of them are good. One of them is the GASB 103, and that's the management and discussion and analysis part, the narrative that goes into an annual financial report. GASB, the standard board, wants us to start doing better at detailing that information in written narrative for all stakeholders who aren't reading the actual financial report. They want us to tell the story, to add more narrative. So those are things that are coming down the pipe that all local governments are going to be dealing with their financial reporting. Let's see. And then our annual financial report is going tonight for audit, or for our council meeting. So our auditor will be in attendance tonight to present that to the council. As we discussed at our last meeting, we anticipated a couple of findings. We did have, they're called significant deficiencies. They are findings that will be in our audit, and I pointed that out in the staff report. And so just so for purposes of the Audit and Finance Committee, just to go over a little bit of what a significant deficiency is in relation to a material weakness. A significant deficiency is something that isn't as bad as a material weakness, but you don't want to let them evolve into material weaknesses, which can then signal there's some issues with integrity and internal controls. So these significant findings and the management response, which is the city's response to these findings, are all detailed out in the audit. And basically it has to do with just staffing turnover and timing. So those are the items that city manager and I will work on over the next year, how to mitigate those for future. So just, they're there, but they don't affect the material aspects of our financial statements being reported. And we got a clean opinion on our audit. So that'll be presented tonight. And that is it for my updates.
Are there any questions from the committee regarding the finance director's updates?
No, just thank you. I really appreciate you're always, I think so with the storytelling narrative that's going to come down, would that be something we would do internally, or are we gonna have to, like? Yeah.
So, and this is actually some of the statements that we're required to do is just like, oh, it just really is complex, more work. But this one makes sense. And so basically, they're saying you have to meet these criteria instead of us just kind of plugging the fresh numbers every year and using a template. This year we have to explain any rare occurrences that may have happened, or if there's variances in your estimated budget to your actuals. That's probably going to be one of the most time-consuming parts. So it's more for the finance staff to do. So the only time we'd probably ever reach out, and it would be more the city manager, is, you know, any type of rare events, like say if we hit a pandemic year or something that really affected our revenues, things like that, where we needed to tell a story that maybe the finance staff didn't have. But probably the biggest part is going to be explaining the variances, the budget, you know, and a lot of times it's just like you'll see when I present the audit tonight, our net position of what we went into budget year thinking we'd end the general fund with a certain amount. Well, we ended higher is simply because our revenues came in higher and our expenses came in lower. So it's now we just have to detail that information into the MD&A report.
Thank you.
All right, per our agenda, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 5:16.